What up, homies of the interwebs? This is Lugnuts.Guapo coming at you from Maverick Harley-Davidson. Today, that is where we're working today. And you probably clicked on this link because these three are maybe of your interest, or you already own one of these and you're just curious if you made the right decision, or maybe you just want to bash what I have to say, which is totally okay with me. But anyway, so yeah, three motorcycles comparable in price. Which one should you get? So obviously the most expensive one out of the three is going to be the VERO King by a very slight margin. And why? So let's start with the Heritage. So the Heritage right over here is obviously a soft tail. The rake and trail on this is obviously going to be much different from the baggers. These two are more comparable to each other, as in like frame, wheels and tires, all that kind of stuff. This is kind of like would be the baby of the three. So obviously they all have bags, windshield or a fairing. And the Heritage, by the way, in my mind, this is what a Heritage should be. Chrome. So, and of course the chrome one comes with the 107 as opposed to the 114, which usually comes blacked out, which I don't get. The Heritage has never really been my thing, but I do acknowledge that it is a fantastic motorcycle. So all three come with ABS standard, they all come with cruise control standard, and they all come with did I already say security ABS. And there was something else that I totally just skimped out. I'm pretty sure I'll think about it later. So, all being close to the same price, what are the differences? How are they redistributing, cost across the board? So, as you may imagine, in my opinion, a touring frame is absolutely superior for a lot of reasons. Obviously, the soft tails are awesome. They're super rigid and awesome handling motorcycles, absolutely are, but they don't have trailing forks. If you're not familiar with what a trailing fork is, that means that the way that the triple trees situate, well, let me rephrase that. The way that the forks sit in front of the neck, that would be leading front end, basically meaning that your forks are in front of the neck. Great for in-city riding, great for going around corners and whatnot, super light. But trailing front end means that the forks are behind the neck. If you ever look at it closely, the necks on a touring bike will be a little bit stretched out, a little bit further out. That way the forks can sit a little bit further back, and that way when you're riding, it's pulling on those forks. And guess what? They're self-centering. So when you're on the highway, going on long trips, absolutely a better machine to have as opposed to the Heritage. But this is a nice versatile motorcycle as well, because it's great if most of the time you're going to be in the city and not a lot of highway riding compared to what you would on a bagger. So yeah, it's overall you would think that they're pretty close to the same, but they're really not. So which one should you buy? Obviously, again, the VERO King being slightly more expensive, and you would think that the Electra Glide would be a little bit more expensive, but it's not. Electra Glide standard and the Heritage Classic are basically the exact same price. I think it's $18,999 if I'm not mistaken, which is great, because I think when they first came out with the Heritage and the new soft tail platform, I think they were a little bit more expensive, and I could not agree. I just couldn't get on board with that, because for that money you could get on a nicer bike, or a touring bike for that matter. So with that said, man, I didn't even roll the intro clip. Oh, we can skip that. Just roll the highlight clip. Oh man. So obviously, in my opinion, you should probably get a touring model. And which one of the two should you get? I don't know. I guess if you already decided that you didn't want a touring model, you would be on the Heritage, which, hey, more power to you. But in my opinion, these two right here are the better option. So I'll choose one of these here in a little bit. It is kind of chilly outside today, and I'm kind of freezing my giblets off just a little bit. But I'm gonna pick one of these two. This one's slightly more expensive, and this one slightly cheaper, obviously, no duh. And well, I guess you'll find out which one I'll be riding here shortly and which one I would pick for myself. That doesn't mean that would be the right one for you. So interesting factoid, by the way, the stroke in engines between that and these two is like 0.001 different, which seems like super random, but in Harley's website that is exactly what it says. Super random. But anyways, let's get on one of these, shall we? Oh man, well, if you guessed Electra Glide Standard, you have guessed correctly. I am a sucker for Electra Glide Standards for a multitude of reasons, mainly practical. So if you've been on this channel for a while, you know that I personally own a 2006 Electra Glide Standard, which I bought because it was super cheap, which is what this is. Super cheap for a bagger, and obviously Road King is up there with it, but I think this is more bang for buck in the sense that if you want to modify your Harley Davidson, if you're going to eventually get a stereo, if you're eventually going to do all these other things that you would to a bagger, that most people do to a bagger, this is perfect because it's a blank canvas. If you're the guy that's going to customize their motorcycle, this is absolutely perfect. If you're someone that's maybe going more for the Cholo style, clearly the Road King Standard is the absolute winner, and it's actually the absolute winner in many ways. So just because I personally would pick the Electra Glide Standard doesn't mean that this is the clear winner. So let's get into that, shall we? So lean angle is actually less in this motorcycle than it is in a Road King, which absolutely boggles my mind. I do not understand how that is even possible, because it is the exact same frame, and as far as I know, it is exact same suspension. So why is the Road King superior when it comes to leaning? It has more lean angle, and it's not a massive difference. It's not something that you would notice by riding one, but it doesn't change the fact that it is slightly superior at 32, I think it's 32 degrees of angle, and this is in the high 20s. That's kind of odd, isn't it? So for something that's, you're looking for something that's super maneuverable, clearly the Road King has a slight edge, and the Road King has a little bit more equipment when it comes to riding two up. So what do I mean by that? So obviously the Electra Glide Standard, when it came out, a lot of people did not know this until they came and saw it on the floor and wanted to buy one. They didn't realize that this thing doesn't come with a passenger seat. It does not come with passenger pegs. It is not set up that way, because what they spent, the cost of putting the fairing and adding everything that fairing has to the bike with a windshield doesn't, like the Road King, is obviously you do get the, you know, fuel, it's a RPM, you know, all that kind of stuff. You can get that aftermarket or another Harley product that you can change, but there's only one speedo, like one cluster, one gauge on the tank, as opposed to 4 gauges on here. And of course the shell of the fairing itself, which is a lot more complex than they used to be. Like my Electra Glide Standard, it's basically 2 shells, and then it has like an armature that holds the whole thing together. These fairings are completely different from that. The gauge, like where the speakers go, that's a structure in itself, and it helps a lot with audio, clearly, because it encloses the speaker if you decide to put speakers on here, which is super easy because it's already set up for it. Same with audio, you can do Bluetooth, you can put a massive stereo in here if you want to. I know one of the techs at Longhorn already did that, put a massive touchscreen on it, which is pretty awesome. But either way, in my opinion, this is, for me, this is a better motorcycle because it's a blank canvas, it has a fairing, and on days like this, where my hands as of right now would be freezing if I took the Road King. They're not right now because the Batwing is blocking the wind. That is why you would want a fairing for the most part, other than looks, because most people like the Batwing fairing. If not, you're a roguelike. I get it. I love roguelites, and I would have one if I could afford one. So if they come out with a roguelite standard, I would have to consider that significantly. But as of right now, the Livewire is on my mind, and probably a vintage FXR. But speaking of the FXRs were super successful, and guess what frame is similar to the FXRs? This particular one, touring frame. Obviously there are a couple of differences. The FXR is a lot, you know, not as wide as a touring model, and it's not not as big. But speaking of size, the wheelbase on a Heritage is slightly longer than this touring bike, which is kind of interesting, and touring bikes in general. But either way, so bang for buck, we already talked about, you know, this has the trailing forks, which is what you want if you're going to be on the highway. These are super, like, pretty awesome, self-centering. If you were to put this on a lift and the front tire is just free floating, you can push the tire each way. Doesn't matter which way you push it, just push it one way and let it go, and it will center every single time, which helps because you are not fighting your front end when you're riding on the highway. Honestly, like, you've probably seen videos of me, which I'm not recommending it, I do it. I let go of the handlebars, and I'm no worry in the world, because I know these things are self-centered. So I'm gonna turn the cruise control on. Let's see, again, the third gear, cruise control on, which is awesome feature, and self-centering. You can do this with basically any motorcycle, but it is so much easier on the touring model and around a parking lot. It is so easy to maneuver these things. Point in case, that's why police units that have, you know, police bikes that are Harleys, that's why they choose a touring platform as opposed to a soft-toe platform, because they're so much easier to handle, even though there's literally almost to the T 100 pounds weight difference between this and a Heritage, or a Road King and a Heritage. I think this is actually slightly lighter than a Road King, which is kind of odd to me, because the fairing itself can be close to 30 pounds if I'm not mistaken. It's wild. But yeah, all that to say, this would be my choice. The Road King, I think, is slightly superior. I think it might have quite a few advantages over the electric light standard, but if you're looking for something with a fairing, this is an absolute clear winner. I don't see why you wouldn't buy one of these, but again, the Road King does have a lot of features that this does not. So anyway, that's all that I got for you guys. If you like this video or any car or motorcycle content, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, you know, all that jazz. But in the meantime, get on your Harley and get some wind therapy. Later.